Hey guys, Tucker here, co-host of the Portland Real Estate Podcast. Before we get into this week's show, I wanted to let you know that we're currently looking for more projects. So for any of you guys that listen to the show that may be an agent or otherwise that have a property that you're looking to sell, we'd love to hear from you. Obviously, we're looking to purchase properties that are maybe not best suited for the retail market, or maybe they need to be redeveloped. So we do renovations and we do new construction, so we could buy an existing home that maybe it smells like cigarette smoke, maybe it hasn't been updated in decades, maybe it's got some functional issues, some problems like that, or maybe it's just in an area that is best suited to take the house down, partition the lot, maybe build a couple new homes, or just build one new home in its place, and anything in between. So if you guys out there in listener land have anything that would be best suited selling to a development company like ours, we'd love to hear from you. You can go to our website, which is ttmdevelopmentcompany.com, and when you go there, there's a Contact Us tab. Click on that, and you can send us a message, and we'll get back to you shortly thereafter. We'd love to hear from any of you guys out there that have a property like this, and hopefully we can do a deal together. This is the Portland Real Estate Podcast, your number one place for anything you need to know about the Portland real estate market, along with in-depth interviews from our local real estate industry experts. Now, without further ado, here are our hosts, Tucker Merrihew from TTM Development Company and Steve Nassar from Premier Property Group. All right, everybody out there in listener land, welcome back. This is episode 103 of the Portland Real Estate Podcast. We are back again. We've had a string of, I would say, some really, really good episodes, but we thought we'd jump back on here, just me and my co-host, Mr. Steve Nassar, and talk market action with you guys. So welcome back, Steve.
Hey, good to be back on the show, Tucker. Yeah, it's been a good run. We've had some really quality shows and some quality guests, and we've got some other ideas for some other good stuff coming up in the future, but yeah, we haven't talked about ourselves in a while, so I think this is appropriate to chat a little bit about what we have going on in our own personal businesses and what we're seeing on the streets and in the trenches as we go about our daily routines.
That's a good chance to embrace our narcissistic tendencies, right? Talk about ourselves a little bit.
Well put. Well put.
So with that being said, we're heading into fall. We'll get into the market stuff here, in just a little bit. But we're heading into that time of the year. I remember last year, it was a little bumpy right about now. And, both on the business front and the market front, mainly because the market dictates business, right? But with that said, what's going on with you over in your world, and do you feel like it's a different time this year than last year?
I do, in a good way, Tucker, in a good way. If you recall, a year ago, I felt, and I even said, I may have said it here, I said it offline as well, it felt like there was some dark clouds on the horizon of real estate. Interest rates, a year ago, interest rates were almost 5%, if not at 5%, which is about 1% and almost 1.5% from where they are today, which is a huge difference across the market on payments and what that does to prices and momentum and urgency for buyers. And that kind of waned with the interest rates as they came back down this year. And here in the last couple of weeks, and we'll talk some of this on the market side, but here in the last few weeks, I'm hearing they're the lowest they've been in several years. They're even lower than they were earlier in the year. And so we just aren't seeing, in my business anyway, and on my team, I'm just not seeing that seasonal slowdown that we oftentimes see. I'm just as busy as I've been anytime this year, if not busier. And, I could be in a bubble. Sometimes I ask myself, am I in a bubble and, hey, things are good in my world and maybe, others aren't feeling that. But I then look at my listings, which aren't in a bubble, right? My listings speak for themselves. And most of my listings are getting good traction, good activity. I have one that's hibernating. It's gone. It's
a good way to put it.
It's gone into a cave and it's snoring. But that's because I think it's a challenging listing. It's got a bunch of stairs to the front door, and it's built on that little hillside that buyers seem to dislike tremendously. But other than that, most of my listings across the spectrum, Tucker, are doing pretty well, from the low price points even into the above $1 million price points. I've got several that are pending or just recently closed. And even the ones that aren't pending are getting some looks. And so I just have an overall healthy feel for where we're at with the market and my personal business. A couple things I have going on. One joke I wanted to say on here, because I've been hearing this so much, and I think we always hear this every year, but man, I feel like this year I've heard it more. I'll be talking to potential sellers, and they will be so quick to say, well, hey, it's fall now, isn't this a bad time to list? And I joke with them and I go, you must think we as realtors are the opposite of teachers. We work spring and summer and then take the rest of the year off, because that isn't reality. I mean, we work year round and we're busy year round, and homes sell year round, and life happens year round. I mean, job transfers, marriages, divorces, kids leaving the nest. I mean, everything that is a life-changing event that could cause a move to be needed happens year round, not just in the spring and summer. Not to mention that while sure there might be more buyers out there, I'll never disagree that there are more buyers out there in the spring and summer, but there's also a lot more sellers. So it kind of evens out. When homes are listed this time of year, you have so much less competition, generally speaking, because there is a big swath of the market that does not want to be listed during the holidays, to be frank, and going into some of that stuff. So those who can pallet being listed then, I think, have some advantages, because the buyers out there are real. There's not as many looky-loos, and it ends up evening out. So that's one thing I've been kind of hearing. A few other things I've got going on in my personal business. A big one that I'm super excited about is I'm doing a client appreciation party. And let me ask you this question, Tucker. Take a guess. How many client appreciation parties do you think I've ever done?
I'm going to go and say, well, I don't want to make you sound like an a-hole, so I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say what you were going to guess. It's 0. And it's not because I don't love my clients. I have some really good systems to send out, some nice gift cards, on an annual basis. I do a lot for my clients, and I try, and I give a lot to them at closing, and we try to offer a lot of valuable services through the process, and I stay well in touch with them. But I've never actually done a client appreciation party. And part of that, I've seen these done poorly in the past. And when I say poorly, I mean, I think intent as well. And I've just heard, different stories. And, one thing I always believed is, look, if you put me in a room with 100 of my clients, they all know me, but none of them know each other. And they probably don't have much else in common besides me. And you might want to say, well, but yeah, I'm sure they're going to want to get to know each other. But that's really that's not my experience. Is it yours, Tucker? I mean, most people they aren't the most, social butterflies just buzzing around a room going, hey, who are you? And so it just kind of creates this awkward environment, not to mention just a lot of pressure on you. And that's just not my favorite flavor either. I mean, I can chat with the best of them, and I can talk real estate with the best of them. But, sometimes when it gets down to, life after the sale and talking about their kids and their daughter's ballet classes, that's not necessarily my strong suit.
What would be funny is if somebody did like some skit videos on social media of like, it's called Life After the Sale, and it's like talking to your realtor after the sale was over, and it's some awkward like, well, okay then, we'll talk later. See ya, bye. Something like that.
Yeah, and you kind of have the tendency to gravitate towards the house. What have you done to the house? And you can talk about that for so long, but at some point you realize, that was 5 years ago, and a lot else has happened, and it's kind of not a big deal to us anymore. So here's where I'm going with this. So through some coaching that I've been doing here for about 5 months, I coach with a guy named Rick Gray. He's out of Idaho. He's done some awesome events for us. I think I've probably even talked about him over the years on this podcast. He's come and done some events at PPG. And several of us at PPG coach with him. He kind of encouraged me in a direction that I thought was a really good compromise, given some of the challenges that I didn't want to have with a client appreciation party. And I had heard of a couple other big agents across the country and other markets, and maybe some local even, that have done similar. And so here's what I am doing, and we're about 2 weeks away from it, and it is going very, very well. And I think this is going to be a smash hit. And
what's the date on it, just out of curiosity?
October 23rd.
Okay. All right.
So what we're doing is a movie night.
no conflict of what I'm going to tell you here in a little bit. So that's why I asked. So.
Oh, good. So what we're doing is a movie night. And I'd heard of a couple other people doing this. And to me, this was a good compromise. Hey, you invite all these people, you get to quickly say hi, check them in, give them a concession gift card. So here's what we're doing. We're doing it at Bridgeport Theater. And they have a great program there that's just turnkey. Like, it's built for this, right? Everything laid out, including red carpet, tables to check people in. We booked one of their larger theaters that holds 460 people. And we picked a movie. We picked a Disney movie coming up. It's Maleficent, The Return of Maleficent. That was probably one of the bigger challenges is trying to identify a movie that's gonna appeal to a broad market. Obviously, you want it to be PG. Obviously, you want it to be kid friendly, but you also want it to be somewhat interesting to maybe someone that doesn't have kids, maybe some of your older clientele or something. And so that was one of our bigger challenges, and we did our best with that. So everybody in our client database that we've been calling, emailing, sending postcards out to, inviting for several months now, and we have about 375 RSVPs, which we're pretty happy with.
Wow, that's impressive. I would have thought that'd be a lot harder to get that number, but that's great.
Well, when you give things away, people come.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody gets free entry for them, all of them. We give every party a $25 gift card to concessions. And we're also doing a drawing before the movie. The movie theater actually gives us a sound system. So I'll stand in front of the theater with the lights on. We have about 12 different gift baskets, and we've put some money into these gift baskets. Their average value is $250, $300, with different themes for the gift baskets. The two grand prizes are Blazer tickets. One set of them is my season tickets, which are 3 rows up, center court. The other one is floor seats. Actually, Directors Mortgage was gracious enough to donate those as their sponsorship towards this event. Floor seats, which is as good as any seat you'd see, an owner of the team sitting at.
Yeah, can I get that basket? That'd be great.
It's a pretty sweet gift prize. So we've been inviting people to that. So kind of how it's going to go is people will check in. They'll get their entry into the different prizes. They'll get their gift card. They go into the auditorium for about 20 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes before. I'll introduce my team. I'll thank some of our sponsors and partners in the process, and then we'll draw the prizes, give away some baskets, and then the movie starts, and it's kind of over and said and done with. And everybody didn't have to mingle with each other. You got a little bit of FaceTime. You got a huge advantage, 2 huge advantages to an event like this that I really appreciate is you're reaching out to your database. You're offering them something of tremendous value that they appreciate and are quick to say yes to, has been my experience. And even if they can't come, they appreciate it. And you're creating goodwill, and you're putting yourself top of mind for them. And we've already started to get some business out of this. And I foresee going through the winter that will only continue. And it's also really good team synergy too. The team has really come together, united. We're all on the phones. We're all calling our past clients. We're all putting these gifts together. So it's been a really, really awesome experience. And I would encourage anyone of our listeners out there that's looking for an idea for some type of client appreciation party. The theater does not have to be as big as the one we have. When we were doing our research, we also looked at the Lake Oswego Theater downtown. It's a lot smaller, so it didn't work for us, but it is an intimate setting, and they do events like this, and I think a lot of different theaters would do that. So that's a really cool thing we have going on. Another thing I'm excited about that I wanted to tell our listeners about is we started using a product. There's a company out there. I think it's called Cole Realty Solutions, or Cole, something like that. Cole, COLE. What they do, Tucker, and I know you'll appreciate this because you're pretty innovative and you've built some apps, and you're out there trying to figure out how to get in front of Joe Public, if you will. What they do that I have not seen anyone else do, and correct me if I'm wrong if you know of another solution, is they provide you with emails of farm lists. So like if you wanted a radius around a certain area, say, First Edition in Lake Oswego, they will give you the phone numbers of people. There's plenty of programs that I've found that do that. That wasn't the new part, but they actually will give you email addresses. And I think they're probably doing it in the same manner. I think and this is mostly a guess, when you or I or anybody else, Tucker, goes down to Home Depot and we fill out a credit application and, we put our phone number, email, name, where we live, those guys on the backside of that, what they do is they send that to Equifax and Experian, who make some money by, charging to pull credit. But I also think they're making money by selling that information on the secondary market to companies like this. Anyway, so what we're doing, and I've had a good experience, we're pretty new in doing this, is when I have a listing in a target area of mine, in what I would call, my wheelhouse area, we already were doing postcards, just listed, pending, sold postcards around there, trying to drum up interest in what we're doing, our expertise in the area, our showing off our marketing. What we're doing now, though, is grabbing email addresses in that area and adding those people to a newsletter that I've been doing now for about 7-8 months. It's been really successful. And so it's not just, hey, I'm here, I've got a listing in this area, I sent you a couple postcards and now I'm gone and bye-bye. But now we're adding them to that newsletter. And what we've experienced in our trial beta tests of this is the opt-out rate is not that bad. I expected it to be pretty atrocious. If you added 300 emails around a house, I was expecting 50% opt-out rate. It was not much higher than a normal opt-out rate that we were seeing with normal database activity. So we've been really happy with that, and I encourage any of our listeners. I was introduced to Cole Services, Realty Services, through Lawyers Title, my rep at Lawyers Title. And if you guys want, I would encourage you to reach out to somebody at Lawyers Title, and they know a lot about that tool and how to use it. And they can probably give you a demo and show you how it works.
So quick sidebar there. So the app we built actually pulls email address too. So it's essentially skip tracing. So we all the addresses that we pull via using our app, which is called Driving for Dollars app, it gives you phone number, it gives you email address, it gives you all the skip trace data that you would get. So it sounds like they've just kind of sliced off email as part of that skip trace data, and they provide that based on a radius search. So it's out there. It's done in a lot of ways. We've got an API built up to basically get it on demand for any given property anywhere across the country. But it's the same type of idea, right? They take this data that they get from a million different places, they stockpile it, and then of course they sell it to these large skip trace companies that then resell it or whatever. So and then it lands in our hands, right, for marketing purposes.
Yeah. And, execution is key. I mean, just having a bunch of email addresses doesn't do it. One thing I'm excited about and that's working well and that I appreciate is my different systems and programs are working well together. There's an ecosystem that I've created. If you had a bunch of email addresses for a farm area, but you had nothing good to send them, that'd be worthless, right? On the flip side, if you have a really awesome newsletter that has quality content that is going to engage people, everything from local things going on, real estate updates, exciting homeowner tips and tricks. If you had that, but you didn't have people to send that to, that would be problematic. So it's when you start to get everything kind of working together that you really start to see a creation of momentum, and that's been happening here over the last 6 to 8 months, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Plus,
one last thing I want to tell our listeners about. This was kind of a unique experience for me, and it's not often done. I'm sure I'm not the first agent that's ever done this, and I'd love to hear from our listeners if it's commonly done. But it was something that worked well for us, and I wanted to share this little tidbit that I did. So I have a listing out in Vernonia. It's about $1 million property, which, by the way, for anyone that knows Vernonia, that's the most expensive house.
I was going to say, that sounds
very
Vernonia. Expensive for Vernonia, yeah.
And we got an offer. It was contingent, and they were selling about a $700,000 house in Scappoose. And they were asking us, and the house hadn't been on the market yet, so I had no pictures of it, I had nothing. They were asking us to take a contingent offer on this house. So, agent was fantastic. The agent on the other side, her and I had a great relationship. We had great dialogue, great communication. And what I ultimately talked to my sellers about and with her about was, look, we're flying a little bit blind here. Your people bought this house about 16 years ago for, $300,000. And clearly it could have gone up in value. You're saying that it's been very much updated, but we have no photos. It's not listed. We really don't know much about the property. So we're interested in your contingent offer, but would it be okay if I came and previewed that home? And that's where I'd never done this before. And I'm curious if other agents do this on a regular basis. But I felt it behooved us for me to take a little bit of time out of my schedule before we tethered ourselves to this property in a contingent bumpable status, which limits our showings. I felt it behooved us for me to actually go to the property, do a site visit, walk through it, then look at some comps and go, okay, are they in the realm? Is this a saleable property? Because rule number 101 in the real estate contingent world is you never want to tether yourself to a harder to sell property than yourself, right? And so I did do that. They were agreeable to it. And I think most contingent offers in this situation would be agreeable to a site visit. I think, they're asking you essentially for some type of favor. And I think they would understand that you want to do your due diligence on their property and how viable it is that it's going to go pending quickly. So they allowed me to go there. Ultimately, in talking it through, I felt like it wasn't a great probability that theirs was going to sell faster than ours. So that in conjunction with the fact that their offer was a little bit off of our asking, quite a bit off of our asking price. So it
So
felt
you're saying
to me
$700,000 was overpriced?
yes, it felt to me like they were undervaluing our house and overvaluing their house. And I said, look, I get it. If you want to do that, that's okay. But you should probably go on the market, get an offer accepted on your house, and then if you come to us with an immediate close, that's a different conversation, and maybe we'll take a little haircut on our property. But to take that haircut on our property and have you priced, what out of what I think the market is, in a manner that we're waiting on you to get an offer, just didn't seem like a good gamble on our side. So anyways, I wanted to share that little nugget because it was kind of a little different approach to a contingent offer where you actually kind of take it to the next level by actually asking to go preview the property. But that's kind of what I have, Tucker. What's going on in your world?
Well, it's funny you brought up a story like that because we sold a house to one of your PPG agents not all that long ago where we had a secondary offer that was that situation. But the house that was going to get listed, they actually were looking at a realistic price, but I took time out of my day to go preview that house.
Did you really?
Yeah, I drove
you've done
by
that.
it. Yeah, I've done it. It was by our office here, so it wasn't like a big deal in terms of time. But I actually drove by. I requested the pictures because they hadn't gone to market yet, and I wanted to see what the inside looked like. And the agent was nice enough to send them over. But I gave it the sniff test, and I honestly thought that one would sell. But then, of course, we ended up doing business with an agent from PPG because we had a non-contingent offer. And why would you accept a contingent offer when you can accept a non-contingent, right?
Sure.
But I had done that exact same thing. Had we not got a non-contingent offer, we probably would have engaged with them. But I gave it the sniff test, and I said, yeah, pricing looks good, pictures look good. It appears that it should sell relatively quickly. It's kind of in that meat and potatoes price point, and it was clean. A little bit of a slanted driveway, but that was the only real negative, right? So I've done that as well. I think you'd be prudent to do that. It'd be kind of dumb not to, honestly. I mean, if you're flying blind into something, if you tied yourself to that offer on an overpriced listing in St. Helens to then, an underpriced offer on your property and Vernon, I mean, it's just a bad situation, right?
Yeah.
But all that can be averted by just going and checking out. So I think it's good advice.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever you're listing a property and a contingent offer comes in, there's a whole new ball of wax of due diligence that's required on that property. And I think we're all used to that. And that's not that in of itself is nothing new. I think we all kind of pull comps. We all look at comps. Oftentimes it's listed already. So you have those photos to look at. And in those cases, maybe it's not necessary to go do a site visit. But when you are flying blind, I mean, I think it is prudent to consider taking it to that next step and saying, hey, you know what? We appreciate this offer. Would you mind if I checked it out just to see what it is you're selling? Because we have no idea at this point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's good. It's just good business practice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's October. I'm thinking back to the show we did last October, and I was pretty much calling it the end of our run. And I guess I have to formally say I was wrong, because this October, in a very strange way, looks quite a bit better than a year ago.
I'm with you.
I thought rates were going up for good last October, or at least for the foreseeable future. And I really, historically rates haven't affected the real estate market that much, but historically we haven't had rates this low for this long. So now you have what we'll call a little bit of an artificial inflation of asset prices based on cheap money if you go that long with that low rates. And so if you raise them substantially, payments go up and demand goes down and puts downward pressure on pricing. So I thought we were there last year, and I thought that was going to be the new normal. And then now all of a sudden rates are ridiculously low again. And, that has kind of continued to spur a good amount of buyer activity. It was interesting. I saw a post. We can dive into it more on the Best of Masters when we do the next show with Joe. But there was a gal that was like, help, my listing's not moving. What's wrong? What are you guys seeing? And, I didn't even have to look at the property address to know that it was a B product priced at an A price, right? So similar to kind of what you were talking about with your hibernation product, if you've got issues with your house, like you just have to factor those in on pricing. But if you price your house right now, stuff's moving, I mean, there might be the outer ring, we'll call it, kind of a little farther out of the city core that, inevitably that's always harder to move. It's a little slower to get those to sale. But, if you're closer in, all around the metro area and you're priced right, stuff seems to be moving. Our turnkey stuff, we had kind of a battle of PPG agents on a street in West Lynn, and I
love it. I
don't know that it's I'm taking a title here by any means, but we won in terms of who goes pending first.
Meaning you I thought you meant you had a bidding war on your property of PPG agents, but you were in an area where there was a bunch of PPG listings near you.
Two that actually happened to be just randomly listed within 2 days of each other. Right?
Wow.
So anyway, then of course there's, you got a little bit of a competition going on because we were similarly priced too, but
yeah,
we won. But the reason being is mainly because we were just turnkey, right? So, the turnkey product is still selling well as long as you price it well, but I'm far more optimistic at this point than I was a year ago about our foreseeable real estate market as we kind of head into the end of this year and Q1 of next year. So, things are moving along. We've got a couple of big announcements. One I'm going to hold until our next show. But the other one,
I think I know which one it is too.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But I will tell you this: our Dunthorpe project that we're wrapping up here shortly. We have been in talks with Oregon Home Magazine, and now it's official, so I can say it. They're going to put that home on their cover issue for the winter issue. So it's going to be on newsstands everywhere for about 3 months. So as you go to the checkout counter, you'll see a blue house with white trim that looks pretty impressive, hopefully. And that'll be our house. So
congratulations.
Yeah, they're going to put that on the cover, and then we're going to have a reveal party on the 19th. Of course, you'll be invited. So that's why I was asking about your.
So let me ask you a question. Are we trying to sell it?
No.
So when I'm coming to the party, I'm not bringing a buyer.
You can just bring your wonderful personality and a date.
I would love to come. Let's see. Let me look on my calendar. 19th is a Saturday. There is a Duck game that day, by the way. What time's your party? There's they're playing the Huskies that day. I know that because I've been waiting for that game.
What time's kickoff?
Last time I looked, it wasn't released. I bet it is now. I'll look.
It's early evening. But anyway,
make sure you have a TV.
Oh yeah. Or just invite Beaver fans.
It's at 12:30. The Duck game's at 12:30, so you're probably okay, Tucker.
Yep, zero conflict. So there you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're excited. They're going to do a 6-page article on it as well, and it'll be kind of a cool article of, we built it once before, we built it again. This version is the 2019-2020 version, which it's turned out really cool. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. Cool.
On top of that, I've been in talks with the city of Lake Oswego for going on 4 years now, for a lot that we have that looks over the entire lake. And I got off the phone with the head engineer for the city last week, and they finally green-lighted us and cleared us. We are build ready for what is a really amazing piece of property. So it looks like we're actually going to build that lot now. So we've got a Lakeview lot coming up that has pretty much a panoramic view of the entire lake. It's almost an acre. And
are you high above the lake, or right?
Yeah, you're high above. So you basically, it sits right above Lakeview.
Like Summit.
No, it's right on. It's off Upper. So remember that
okay.
house back in the day? You lived on one on the lake that was a little farther down Lakeview, past where it intersects South Shore. It looks right over the top of like this castle-y looking house. Got to finish out. So anyway, it looks out over the lake there. It's an awesome piece of property, but we're finally going to be able to build it, which is awesome. So we're really excited about that.
That's a great. I mean, you've got everything going on there. You've got the north side of the lake, close to Upper Drive. You've got views of the lake. My gosh, that's going to be a great property. You could really push prices on that one, huh?
Yeah, I think we probably could. I think we're going to do it with a pool even already put in, so it's going to be really cool. But then we're also on the flip side, we're buying another Lake Oswego project here. I just signed paperwork right before we hopped on today, and we'll be closing it up on the other side of Lake Oswego, just a little ranch. So we got a lot going on, and then of course I've got a speaking engagement tomorrow night at an investor meetup here in town, one of the bigger events of the year. So I'm their headline speaker. So we got a lot going on. And
good for you. Congratulations. I saw that on Facebook, I think. Yeah,
a couple of good guys. They host, it's called the Rare Bird Investor Network, but they've got a good thing going on. And so I'm going to go put some support behind them and go speak tomorrow night. So
what's the venue for that?
I should know, but it's
downtown.
Downtown Northeast Portland area. So
like a hotel or something.
Yeah, like Rose Quarter area. I forget exactly.
Cool.
But
cool.
So it should be a good time. So we got a lot going on. But overall, I guess I'll say I'm pretty optimistic as we kind of segue into market stuff here, because we got just a little bit of time left before we both got to go. But it's definitely a different time feeling wise than it was a year ago. I don't see rates going up in the near future. So looking at numbers, I know they're a little bit old at this point, and we can kind of look forward based on what, we've got in front of us. But, inventory was stagnant from essentially the last two reports. They stayed at 2.3 months. It was 2.4 months before that. I don't think that moving forward, as we get September's numbers, we're really going to deviate too much from that. Although I would say last year when September's numbers came out, we spiked to over 3 months, and then we kind of tricked back. But that spike also kind of made us think, oh, crap, rates are going up, inventory jumped. This is the inflection point. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to quit predicting, because I really have no idea other than
me too.
I think the next quarter will remain solid. And if you have good, quality product that you put out to market at the right price, I think that you'll have no problem selling it. I think if you have product that's, like I said before, a B product for whatever reason, and you put it out at an A price, you're going to put yourself behind the eight ball a little bit in terms of pleasing your sellers and getting a number that their expectations, think they should get at that point. And I think that's a battle that you guys fight as an agent, to tell people, what they need to hear and not what they want to hear, but still get the listing at the same time. So I think there'll be a fair bit of that just kind of continues because of that battle. But ultimately, I'm pretty strong on the market right now. I think that it's especially in certain areas. There's other areas that aren't quite as desirable, but the more desirable ones, Westlands, the Lake Oswegos, the Southwest Portlands, I don't know where else you've got listings where you're seeing pretty high traffic in terms of showing and demand, but those three are definitely strong right now.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm just kind of almost a hypothetical question. Like, had we not seen that spike in rates a year ago, would the market be as strong today?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Because I think that did two things. It put the fear of God in people, like, hey, oh my God, that's possible. So when they see the rates low again, they go, we got to do this, right? The other thing it does is I think it created a little pent up demand. As people sidelined and go, oh man, I can't afford a house right now, you suddenly started building up buyers that were ready to buy, just weren't buying. So as rates dipped, suddenly there was an influx of buyers jumping into the market. So I think we're benefiting from what happened then, and I'm right there with you. In fact, Tucker, we had seen the average sales price really flatline. And I'm not saying it hasn't flatlined. It's still very low. Year over year, the most recent market update that we had was 1%. It went up. But it had gotten really close to zero before that. So this tells you that it actually has picked up a tiny bit, right? which is surprising. I was kind of, 6 months ago, I was expecting us to dip backwards a little bit, start to go down, 1%, not a cratering, but a little dip, and which wouldn't be a big deal in my mind if we saw negative appreciation, 1, 2, 3%, but that just hasn't happened. I mean, I think the consumer's really strong. I think the labor market's strong. The interest rates are good. There's uncertainty out there, and I still don't think this is going to last forever. I still think, we're going to, see, but I also have been thinking for a year now that maybe this is what normalcy looks like. Maybe in a normal market, your dips and valleys aren't years at a time. Maybe they're six months or a year at a time. Maybe having interest rates go up 1%, kind of, the brakes, pumping the brakes on the market, then they kind of come back. And maybe it's not always interest rates. Maybe it's other market factors. Maybe it's, economic. Maybe it's, jobs. Maybe it's, various other components, that ebb and flow the market for 6 months or a year at a time versus 3-4 years at a time, as we've seen in the past with those violent market changes. I'm feeling pretty good about the market. I'm seeing healthy activity out there. I feel I've heard from buyers firsthand that they said, back last December we were ready to buy, and we just didn't want to do so because the rates were so high, and we know we have to do this now. And they feel the pressure to buy now, which is helping the market. They have that urgency because they don't want to see this window close without them having benefited with those interest rates. There's a lot of lending programs that are getting a little bit more. They're not. They're still having to show their income, but I'm hearing more about 1% down. I know FHA 0 down is alive and well.
Really? I didn't know that they had a 0 down one. Wow.
They're doing the gift programs. Yeah. Okay, it's the same one we always did, right? Okay. Where there's some gift for the 3.5% that's basically built into the program. I mean, it's kind of a shell game, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely a shell game, but it's there again. So
it's there. Yeah. We're doing a couple right now. We've got a couple buyers pre-approved for that right now. So that's so the market has, the mortgage market has gotten a little bit more less conservative, and with the down payment component, those people are all qualifying. They're all showing their income. Nobody's doing stated income 100%.
As they probably shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't.
That was a bad idea the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think you're right. I think that the little kind of pump the brakes, go forward, kind of go back, it kind of gut checked the market a little bit. I feel like it's almost like taking away, let's say, a kid's allowance for a little while. So then once he gets it back, he's like, oh, this is a good thing, and doesn't take it for granted, right? So maybe there's a little bit of that going on with interest rates. I don't know. I don't know where the market would be if we didn't have that little, pump the brakes moment. But I feel like for the last few years, it's kind of ebbed and flowed. Last year was just kind of the biggest little dip we've had in time that definitely made some people a little worried. But, at this point, unless numbers come out crazy for this month, which I don't think they will, I think we're going to move along through the end of this year, and it should be surprisingly better than last year at the same time in terms of ability to sell houses and for the prices that they're going to sell for.
Yeah. I think if I was to guess what will be a future event, because I think the stock market is getting pretty high, and it has been for a while. I mean, it's been on the longest bull run in history. I think 10 years now, and I think I could see a market. A little bit of a market slowdown as a stock market starts to correct and go into, but that won't be what'll be great for us, Tucker. And I've said this before on the show, the last downturn was so bad for us because it was the epicenter of the downturn was real estate, right? We were where and why the market was crashing. So we felt it first and we felt it hardest. I don't think the next downturn or recession is going to be real estate centric. I think it will be maybe stock market, maybe debt markets, maybe corporate debt, maybe other components where we'll feel residual effects, but they will not be that ground shattering, cratering that we felt before. And I think we'll address it and we'll go through it, and there'll be some effects to the the number of agents out there, and to the amount of, everybody's business will dip a slight amount, but it'll be a manageable amount, and there'll still be opportunities to grow market share through innovation and execution and doing things the right way.
Yeah. Well, overall, I'm pretty happy about where we're at. I think I'm optimistic as we head into Q4 here, and we'll see how optimistic we are after we have Joe on next week's show and we talk about all the comments and masters and the challenges that agents are facing. But overall, I would say, reflecting back on the show we did a year ago at this time, I feel like we're in a better place, much better place. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to bottle it up and kind of move forward with it.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. So next week we'll be doing Best of Masters. We've got Joe teed up for that. It's been a little while since we did one of those shows. We'll be going through the threads and finding some great topics. There's been some really good stuff over the last couple months. So I'm excited to get together, the three of us, and probably have a nice, healthy sized show, maybe an hour or so, give or take. And we'll catch up on that. Yeah.
Joe might even be drinking White Claws during the day, depending on which day we do it. Yeah. So.
You got him hooked.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much wraps up our what's going on with us and kind of our take on the market currently. Overall, things feel pretty good out there. So, of course, there's going to be some outliers and some challenges to sell stuff everywhere. But for the most part, I think everything's good. So that pretty much wraps up this week's show. We'll see you all on the next one.
Thanks again for listening to our show, and make sure to tune in next week for another great episode of the Portland Real Estate Podcast.